Right, hello everyone, good evening.
Hello.
We hope you guys are all well. How's everyone doing? Yes, okay, a few smiles up there, so that's always encouraging when we start a lesson. It's great to see you guys all. Today we're going to just do a recap of what we did last lesson. We're going to do a short little article and then we're going to take a look at some technical stuff. Now, as you know, in the previous lesson, by the way, if you have any questions regarding the lesson, just shoot them through as usual. Now, as you know, in the previous lesson, we talked about this concept called that the Creator, there's none else besides Him. There's none else besides the Creator. What actually that means is that everything that happens in the world, everything from our smallest thoughts to our desires, to even my hand movements as I talk, as I speak, as I move, everything that happens in the world is a part of this system that's operating. And if you have noticed, if you caught yourselves on multiple occasions during the day, you'd have known that there are so many things in life you're just doing automatically. You're not really putting a thought behind it or calculating. It's like an instinctive move, this instinctive life that we're really in, just like animals. And this should already be a sign for all of you, showing us that the Creator is moving everyone. He's making us all act, talk, do things exactly according to a purpose. And having talked about that, we left that lesson with a thought in mind and said, listen, if no matter what happens, try to think that it came from the Creator, that the Creator was doing this, that He made this happen. Like the thoughts that come to us, the desires that come to us. If I spill my tea or coffee, if I all of a sudden want to go eat something, if I'm just opening the telly and wanting to watch something, to listening to music, anything and everything, just try to keep in mind that the Creator is behind us. So I hope you guys went okay with that exercise. How did that go? Yeah? Did you guys manage to remember the Creator during the day, that He was making you think, He was making you want things, did you guys manage to catch yourselves doing things instinctively? The reason I'm like kind of underlining that is because our work is to build a relationship with the Creator, right? So we have to start somewhere. And the best way to start is to start building this approach, this way of observing our lives. And the best way to start doing that is by practice, obviously, right? So the moment I can start to relate to the Creator with everything that happens to me, I can then obviously start to get some feedback from life, and I can start to do the right turns over time to navigate myself correctly within the ins and outs of the events of life. Okay, so just a recap and a reminder on that. So if you'd like to go back to that topic, please feel free to read the article called Shamati number 1. There's none else besides Him. You can find that on the internet site. Today we're going to start with a short article. Are there any questions, by the way?
So far, so good.
No? Is that a no?
Nope.
No, okay, good, okay, right. Now that we've got the communication sorted out. Now we're going to read a short article from this book, okay, Rabash Social Writings, and we're going to start with an article called Purpose of Society number 1 on page 9. But before we start, I just want us to start doing something together before we start the lesson. Obviously, before we start the lesson, we can't do it together, but we can all do it individually before we start the lesson, so we prepare ourselves for the lesson. Now, if you have this book, great. If you don't have it, it would be good to have it. But if you feel like you don't want to have it, all the articles in here should be on the website. Before we start a lesson, it's very important for us to prepare for the lesson, because preparation is really the only thing we can do, because once you start an action, what you discover in life is that action just flows. It's like going to war. Who wins the war? The person who's most prepared, right? So, but once you're in the battle, once you're inside a job or a project or whatever, you just carry out the plan, and that's how it goes. So for us also, the most important thing is to prepare for a lesson. And I wanted to read an article today before we started what we really wanted to learn today, so that we get used to preparing ourselves to a lesson before the lesson starts. Okay, so it's like going to meet someone. Let's say you're going out on a date. Okay, so in your mind you're thinking, oh, how should I behave? How should I talk? What should I talk about? How should I get dressed? It's like preparing yourself, right? So same here. When we're studying spirituality, it's like a date with the Creator. Okay, even though we don't feel the Creator at the moment. So it's good to get our heads around into what we really want out of this lesson. So the first article we're going to study from Rabash is The Purpose of Society, number 1, on page 9. It's a very, very important article because it explains exactly why we are all sitting here tonight and studying Kabbalah. Let me just put my glasses on. All right, so Purpose of Society, number 1, page 9, by Rabash. We have gathered here to establish a society for all who wish to follow the path and method of Baal HaSulam, the way by which to climb the degrees of man and not to remain as a beast, as our sages said about the verse, and you, my sheep, the sheep of my pasture, are men. And Rashbi said, you are called men, and idol worshippers are not called men. So Rabash is saying, listen, there's only one reason why we're really here, and that's to study Kabbalah according to our sages, and as how Baal HaSulam gathered all the material for us, so we can actually go up the ladder of spirituality and not remain here in our corporeal beastly life. Obviously, when he's talking about here men, we're talking about human, okay? So there's no men or women. In spirituality, there are no sexes, right? So it's talking about everyone. So the whole purpose of us being together is to study this method, Kabbalah, as Baal HaSulam arranged it for us, so we can rise in the ladders of spirituality and not remain as an animal. To understand man's merit, we shall now bring a verse from our sages, about the verse, the end of the matter, all having been heard, fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole man. And the Gemara asks, what is? For this is the whole man. Now Rabash puts in here as if it's something religious, right? However, although it sounds religious, they're taking little parts from the old Kabbalistic texts so that they use it as a reference to explain in our 21st century what we're supposed to be doing. The reason Kabbalists refer to previous texts written by previous Kabbalists is to ensure that we're not going off track. So an authentic Kabbalist always wants to make sure that he's citing something from an authentic text so that his students know that, we're following a path that's dating back to thousands of years, and a Kabbalist is not just, talking nonsense out of his own head, because no Kabbalist would. In fact, all Kabbalists would take all their teachings from an authentic source to make sure they line it up, and they explain to their students what that means in spirituality. So sometimes if you encounter things that sound religious and then you think, oh my God, what's going on? Don't freak out, because there's a good reason why Kabbalists do that. They want to make sure that, listen, our lineage, our teaching comes from thousands of years ago, and what they were studying thousands of years ago, we're right now studying as well. So I'm going to take that old sentence from an old book, but we're going to explain it in the language of the 21st century, so we're all on the same page. And this is to make sure that a Kabbalist authenticates the method, okay? Because this method has been around for 3,500 years. So they have to keep that lineage. All right, so don't freak out when you see those sentences.
Also, we're getting a report here of some choppiness, some noise. So could everybody please make sure that you mute your microphone?
Yes, Rabin needs to...
Yeah, please make sure that you mute your microphones. Everybody whose microphone is not on mute, please make sure that you mute it so that way it doesn't disturb the other friends.
Thank you.
We'll continue.
Great, thank you. So let's read. Rabbi Elazar said, the Creator said the whole world was created only for that. This means that the whole world was created for the fear of God. Okay, so right, as we study an article, if we don't know something, you got to make a note of it, right? The fear of God. That doesn't sound very nice. Okay, so let's figure out what that means. The fear of God. So he mentioned it. We better know what that is. Okay, because it definitely doesn't sound nice. If we want to love him, who wants to fear him? Yet we need to understand that the fear of God is being the reason for which the world was created. So this is actually equals the purpose of creation? Really? Oh my God, we've got to clarify this. All right, this is how we need to study. We need to make notes so we clarify everything. Yet we need to understand what the fear of God is, being the reason for which the world was created. From all the words of our sages, we learn that the reason for creation was to benefit his creations. Well, that sounds a little contradictory. So he's saying the purpose of creation was to benefit, also benefit us, right? It says benefit the creatures. Well, we are the creatures, so it's supposed to benefit us, okay? All right, this means that the Creator wished to delight the creatures so that they would be happy in the world. And here our sages said about the verse, for this is the whole man, that the reason for creation was the fear of God. Okay, so the purpose of creation is the fear of God, and we are supposed to be happy about that because the purpose of creation is to benefit us. Come on, that doesn't sound very right. But according to what is explained in the essay Matan Torah, the reason why the creatures are not receiving delight and pleasure, even though it was the reason for creation, is the disparity of form between the Creator and the creatures. Okay, so the reason we are unhappy in life is because we are not equal to the Creator, okay, in our nature. Okay, that is making us very, very upset. Okay. The Creator is the giver and the creatures are the receivers. But there is a rule that the branches are similar to the root from which the branches were born. So the Creator is bestowing and we are receiving, and that makes us opposite. However, there's an important sentence here. But there is a rule that the branches are similar to the root from which the branches were born. Well, if this is the branch, okay, which is us, and this is the root, which is the Creator. So he's saying that even though we're a branch and we're a desire to receive, because we came from the Creator, inside of us must be something from the Creator. Okay, that makes sense because we have a dot in the heart. Okay, so we already know that. Okay, cool. And since there is no reception in our root, since the Creator is in no way deficient and needs nothing to satisfy his want, man feels unpleasant when he needs to be a receiver. This is why every person is ashamed to eat the bread of shame. So in our nature, apparently, if we receive things, okay, we feel bad. In the 21st century, I don't know if you feel that bad about receiving, but if you think about it, it's logical. Because every time, if we're a developed person, right, receiving from somebody else means actually I'm lower than them. So receiving is a very, very tricky thing for a developed person who senses and feels the disparity of form between someone giving and someone receiving. Because at the end of the day, an extreme example would be a beggar, right? So if there's a beggar out on the street and they're begging, the giver and the beggar are like, worlds apart. So this concept of feeling unpleasant when we receive we should have at least some kind of an understanding of that. To correct that, the world had to be created, which we're going to look into today. Olam, world, means he'elem, concealment, so that the delight and pleasure must be concealed. Okay, so this is why we don't feel any pleasure, because the Creator is concealed and we're completely opposite to the Creator, and that's why desire and the pleasure from the desire cancel each other out, so we can never actually have an ongoing fulfillment. And that's called concealment. So on the one hand, Creator wants to make us happy. On the other hand, He can't. So He has a dilemma. Why is it so? The answer is for fear. In other words, it is so that man would fear using his vessels of reception called self-love. Well, there we go. He finally explained to us what is the fear of God is. Now, in many religious books, okay, you'll read about the fear of God and so forth. And sometimes, in movies, they go, he's a God-fearing man. Okay, however, the fear of God is apparently not what people out there speak about or think or what it is. Okay, so he's explaining to us here something very important, that the whole of creation is for the fear of God. But on the other hand, the whole of creation, the purpose of creation, is to make us happy, to benefit us. So he's now defining, well, what the fear of God is. So he's saying the fear of God is, if I could also write, fear of God equals fear of using my desire to receive for myself. Receive for myself. In other words, being an egoist, being self-centered. So being afraid of being an egoist is the same thing as the fear of God. Okay? Does that make sense? This needs to make sense for us. The reason is because we're opposite to the Creator in our egoistic state. Disconnection from the Creator is obviously cutting me off from life. So the fear of God is actually using my egoistic desire in a selfish way, which cuts me off from the Creator. And if that's the case, we can never be happy or fulfilled. So do you guys see how parallel that is? Yeah? If you got any questions about that, you must ask me to clarify this. All right? Because in the books, you'll see it sometimes, and then you'll think, why do I need to fear God? How can I fear Him and love Him at the same time? Because you can't. It's just not right. It's just not logical. But there is a fear which is related to love, and that is the fear of hurting the other person. Right? That's also called a fear. If I love somebody, there needs to be fear in that relationship. And what's that fear? Because I love them so much, I fear of hurting them or doing something wrong to make them unhappy. So you can't have love without fear in a relationship. This is a very important concept. Okay? Because sometimes we think they're contradictory, but they're not. You can't love if there's no fear. Both must happen. Both must be in there. All right, so there we go. So in order for us to do this, let's go back. The answer is for fear. In other words, it is so that man would fear using his vessels of reception called self-love. So if I'm afraid of using my vessels of reception for self-love, it means I fear the Creator. It's the same thing. This means that one should prevent oneself from receiving pleasures because one craves them, and should have the strength to prevail over the craving, the object of one's desire. In other words, if I have an egoistic desire where I want to use others for self-fulfillment, I should be sensible enough not to use that desire. That's what it's saying. So most of the world is not sensible about that, unfortunately, And because of that, we get ourselves into a lot of strife and problems. In fact, all our problems is just because of that. What else? Instead, one should receive pleasure that bring contentment to the Creator. Now, what does that mean? It feels like I have to do everything for the Creator. I have to make Him happy and like end up working for Him for the rest of my life just to make Him happy. All right? Doesn't it sound like that, doesn't it? However, that's not the situation. That's not the situation. We need to understand that correctly. All right, if has anyone got kids? You got kids, right? Somebody must have kids around here, right? And you love your kids, right? So when you constantly do something good for your kids, all right, do you feel like you're their slave? Okay? As they grow up, you probably do, because we're egoistic. But if you really love them, because you want to do something nice for them, or you love them, you don't feel like you're working for them. Okay? It doesn't feel like you're working because you love them. Why? Because kids are a part of us. It's like our flesh and blood. So we don't mind doing good things for them, and in the same time, you know, we have to run around for them, but we love them. So that run around actually becomes a pleasurable thing. So if you love someone, think about it, right? You love somebody and it's their birthday. So you're running around spending your day trying to find out which present that they would love to have for their birthday. Now think about it. All day you're running around, you know, literally burning your day. You're getting tired. You're going to spend money on them. So you spent your money, you spent your time, you got tired, all right, to get them the gift that they love. But during that whole process, you loved the process of doing it. Okay, so you did all that with a great feeling and sensation of love. Why? Because you love them. So it doesn't feel like you got tired. It doesn't feel like you wasted your money or your time, because you love them. Right? So that's what it's talking about. So because the Creator's attitude towards us is always bestowal from loving us, He's saying, well, we should get the same pleasure from doing the same thing. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, somebody, I can see some of you have never been in love before. Would that be right? Oh, poor you guys. Okay.
You know, you can't miss what you never had. You
okay. What can I say? Poor you. Da da da. Shame. Better luck next time. Okay. No, but we'll just try to get the concept. Okay. It's logical. Okay. It's logical. Okay. So they're saying because the Creator loves us so much and He's doing everything for us and He's loving doing it because He loves us so much, wouldn't it be great to get continuous pleasure from that? Because if you have such a relationship, then running around all the time, trying to make them happy all the time becomes a pleasurable thing. So if you were celebrating their birthday every day and you had the resources and the time to buy them a gift every day, you'd be doing it voluntarily and you'd be getting great pleasure from it because you love them so much. Doesn't that make sense? Yes, I think it makes sense. So we should be getting pleasure from that kind of love. That's what the Kabbalists are talking about. So it's not about being a slave to someone, and it's not about being a slave to the Creator, but the Creator actually wants us to have pleasure from becoming a perfect, complete person without any lacks at all. Because one who's always giving is in a state of perfection. It means I don't lack anything. And that's perfection. All right, so we need to understand that concept. What else are they saying here? Therefore, when a person... Okay, we can skip that. And this is why, so I'm reading a slightly lower down, and this is why we gather here to establish a society where each of us follows the spirit of bestowing upon the Creator. Now, the purpose of life is to make us happy, obviously, but to be happy from bestowing to the Creator. We must never forget the purpose of life, right? although I wrote it here, this is purpose of creation is to bestow to the Creator. To bestow to the Creator. And to be happy just like He's happy, because we're in a state of perfection. And we become just like Him in our relationship. So we don't feel any less than Him. Otherwise, we can't have a good relationship. Relationship means that you're equal. So if the Creator is giving and I'm receiving, we're not equal. I'm less. And then we can't be equal. So we can't have a relationship. Okay, so there can be no love if there's no equality. All right. So obviously, what is he saying? Let's read that again. And this is why we gathered here. So the whole idea of us gathering together is to study the wisdom of Kabbalah in order to come to bestow to the Creator, to get His attributes. And this is why we gather here, to establish a society where each of us follows the spirit of bestowing upon the Creator. So that's our goal, and that's why we're all gathered here for. And to achieve bestowal upon the Creator, we must begin with bestowal upon man, which is called love of others. So because we don't perceive the Creator, I can't go around saying I'm bestowing to the Creator, because that will just make me look rather silly, wouldn't it? How can you love someone that's not there, right? Because the Creator is not in our perception. So I can't do anything for the Creator. So anyone who thinks without having a dialogue, a perception of the Creator, running around saying I'm doing something for the Creator, is in a delusion, right? So the Kabbalists are very pragmatic guys. Listen to guys, they're saying until you come to see, feel, and perceive the Creator and have that bond and connection, there's nothing we can do except to practice this with each other. Okay, and that's where the whole concept of loving others comes from. You know, like love thy neighbor like thyself, that kind of stuff. However, obviously, we're not talking about love like people think about it out on the street. The concept here is this, right? If I want to attain something, if I want to be a good football player, what do I need to do? And to practice, right? If I want to be a good tennis player, if I want to be a good artist, I have to practice. So Rabash is saying, listen, we just all came here together to practice this method that Baal Islam arranged for us in order to open up our perception so that we can perceive the Creator. And the way we can come to a change in our inner lives is to try to do this amongst each other first. Just like, kids, we send the kids, where do we send them to? Kindergarten, right? So the kids in kindergarten run around, play games, and so in our environment we have to practice to do this. That's what he's talking about, basically. So that doesn't sound very scary. So that is the purpose of our existence. And love of others can only be through revoking of one's self. It means I revoke my personal self-love for myself. Thus, on the one hand, each person should feel lowly. That is like feeling modest, okay? And on the other hand, we should be proud that the Creator has given us the chance to be in a society where each of us has but a single goal, for divinity to be amongst us. That means to unite with the Creator, to perceive the Creator. And although we have not yet achieved this goal, we have the desire to achieve it, and this too should be appreciated by us, for even though we are at the beginning of the way, we do hope to achieve the exalted goal. So although we're nowhere near that state at the moment, we're getting there. We're in a group of people who want to get there. All right? The Kabbalists say that the way for a person to open up his perception and to start sensing what's on the outside is by doing this mutual work between people. And that's the whole method of Kabbalah. So because we don't feel other people outside of us, we also can't feel the Creator that's also outside of us. Because at the end of the day, if we're desired to receive, we feel everything in this vessel of reception. So in order to feel what's on the outside, which they describe as the creator, I have to start practicing somewhere so I can open up this, let's do it like this, so I can open up this dot in the heart and make a channel out of it so it can start to feel what's on the outside. Okay, does that make sense? No? Okay. All right. Well, yeah, somebody. Yes. No? Nothing? Okay. Well, anyway.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay. But it should be all logical. Guys, in our spiritual work, there is nothing illogical. Okay, spirituality is very logical, and although sometimes people, make you want to believe there's something mystical out there, and all of a sudden, something's going to come down from the sky in a blinding light. Nothing's like that really going to happen, because we're all going to discover inside out, and everything is inside a person, in our sensations and feelings. All right, so this methodology is very simple. In order to perceive the Creator that's outside of us, we have to start working on how we can perceive people who are also on the outside of us as if they are a part of us. And in the first semester, we learned, that the whole of creation was one creation, and we are all in that creation, all of us. Okay, so we're all parts of that creation. But because we don't feel like we're a part of this creation, we feel like there is me and there is creation, like the world. Okay? We don't consider and feel ourselves like we're in this world, part of this whole mechanism or system. So in order for us to feel this whole system, I have to make an effort to connect with others so I can get out of this egg that I'm in. It's like living inside this egg that's never hatching. That's our life, basically. So in order for us to step out of that zone, I have to start making these connections. And that's what it's all about. Because through that, then we can discover the Creator, which is actually, the Creator is also in the system with us. This is why they say the Creator is everywhere. He is everywhere. Rightio. Any questions?
Yes, we do. We have Michael from South Africa asking.
Michael, can you raise your hand so we know who you are?
Michael, are you there with us still?
Okay, you ask the question. If he's around, we'll see him.
All right, it says, if we reach a state of perfection, we are then no longer receiving. But then the Creator will no longer be happy, as he will have no one to bestow to, right? He says, I'm a little confused.
No, we are going to receive. We are always going to receive. So I'm sure you'll be happy to know about that. We are a desire to receive. We will always receive. Always. Okay, this will never change. However, we're not just going to receive and gobble everything down into our belly. What we want to do is have a relationship with the Creator in such a way that when He bestows, and He wants us to receive, and we want to receive too, but we want to receive under one condition. I will receive what you want to give me, not because it tastes great, but it's going to make you happy. So I want to return the favor of bestowal, because my intention in receiving is not for my self-benefit or self-pleasure, but because the Creator feels pleasure from bestowing.
Now, Claire Bezel is asking, why do we have to revoke love for the self if we love others and the Creator? Can't we use love of self for a non-egoism way?
No, because that's the whole issue. You see, sometimes methods say we need to love ourselves, okay? And that's just lack of understanding of human nature, because we already love ourselves, okay? We do everything because we love ourselves. Human nature cannot work in any other way. Egoism loves ourselves. Even if you say to yourself, when you look in the mirror and you say, I don't love myself, it's in order to find the way to love yourself more than your current situation. This is how our nature works. Our nature is very, very tricky. And because we already love ourselves, the way to get out of it and to have another perspective is to actually to make a change and say, you know what, I want to do something for somebody else without self-benefit. Yeah, that's a nice question.
Now, Claire also says, are we aiming to perceive others as a manifestation of our own egotistic mind?
We will, yes. The whole reality is a depiction of my egoistic state of mind. This is why there's so many problems on the planet.
Now, Gary from the UK is asking, by developing the sixth sense during our efforts, does this allow a person to perceive what other people desire, enabling a person to bestow to others like a parent to his children?
That's right.
Bringing contentment to nature?
Yeah. That's so good. Who said that?
That came from Gary from the UK.
Oh my, that's so cool. That's so good. That's good. I'm glad I'm doing well. See, when you say such things, makes me happy.
Now, Steve is asking, the world is in us, but we are to see others as us. How does this work?
That is perception of reality. Okay, that's lesson number 3 or 4 we did in the first semester. You know what? I recommend you go on YouTube and type in perception of reality. There is a really nice video there which I was actually, I came across because I was searching for ways to scientifically express the situation. There's a very nice video about how we perceive everything at the back of our brains. It's funny how Kabbalists wrote about this 2,000, 3,000 years ago, and modern science is discovering it now. But it's a really good documentary. Just check it out on YouTube. See, I'm sure you can find it, on how to perceive reality, and everything is inside this little head there.
Next question is from Carmen. Carmen says, what is the relation between creation and creator if the creator is everything?
Because that's the whole trick, you see. That's the relationship that we're going to build. The intention to bestow. That's actually us. Because the desire to receive is what the Creator created, right? Here is the Creator. And this is also what the Creator made too. This is not something I made. It's not even me. I mean, it is me, but it's like not me. It's like I inherited it and I didn't earn it. So the whole actually concept of being a person is this thing called the intention to bestow. Okay, this is me. Okay, that's the dot in the heart. You know the dot in the heart we had? Well, from that we're going to build this intention. Me, the real me. Intention to bestow. There we go. Yes.
All righty. Next question is NL English. Lenny. It says, how can we connect to others if we only see what we think we see with our judgments?
Because we're going to start from scratch and we're going to look at everyone like we look at the mouth in the world. Okay? We perceive reality with our 5 senses. So we are not going to think that we are already in spirituality when we're not there. We're going to look and we're going to start treating people just like we would treat them normally out there on the street. Okay? So I'm not going to go around telling myself you are all in my head. Okay? Because that's really not a healthy way to look at things. We start with our 5 senses. Okay? And we treat everyone in life just like we would normally treat them. And then from that, as we progress in spirituality, as we learn, we're going to build the proper relationship to how to look at things.
And Lenny added, and what we think we see is sometimes more about us or me.
Yeah, everything about this world right now is all about me, me, me. Okay, because we're egoistic. Everything has to be about me, me, me. All right? Yes.
And that was our last question.
Okay, great. Now we've got about, what, 15 minutes?
Yes.
And I will show you the worlds, how everything was created. Isn't that great? Now, bear with me, because we've got only 15 minutes, right? Now, the whole of creation was created by the Creator in 4 phases. This is called 0 or root phase. And He created from His thought a desire to receive. And that begot our Kli. And this is the first phase, okay? And this is the desire to receive. And then this desire to receive, having received all the light and all the pleasure that the Creator could possibly offer, began to feel the Creator at the end of this fulfillment here at the bottom. And from that sensation that he's receiving everything from the Creator, popped a new sensation into his mind or heart or whatever, in the desire to sing, wait a minute, I am fulfilled with pleasure, so somebody must be filling me. Wouldn't it be great if I could fulfill them too? So from being a desire to receive and receiving everything, a new state is born, and that new state is also wanting to bestow. Now look at that. Isn't that great? The Creator wants to create a creature and give him maximum fulfillment. So creates a desire to receive. This is our desire to receive. Fills it with pleasure. And then the creature, this desire to receive, feels that he would like to bestow as well. That's great. And when that desire to bestow develops to its final situation, it finally dawns on the desire to receive. It says, well, wait a minute. I'm just a desire to receive. I don't have anything to give. What can I possibly give if I have nothing to give? All right, that's good. So this brings us to the third phase. And the third phase is a situation where he thinks, oh, if the Creator wants to bestow, that's great. And if I also want to bestow back to the Creator, that's also lovely. Why don't I receive what He wants to bestow so that it'll make Him happy? That way I'll be bestowing too. That's a nice little calculation. Which brings us to the fourth state. Okay, so this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the fourth state is very tricky because that's the real desire to receive pleasure. Here in the third phase, this desire to receive is feeling all the pleasure from receiving from the Creator. So getting maximum fulfillment from reception, but also getting maximum pleasure from bestowal. He's thinking, wait a minute, the Creator has so much nice things to give, and I love it. But on top of that, to be like Him, to be as great as Him, that's also awesome, right? So I've got double the pleasure, right? Double the pleasure that way. Okay, so desire for pleasure from reception and pleasure from bestowal. This increases the will to receive and brings it to the fourth and final phase where we can say that really is the desire to receive. Why? Because it's a desire to receive from wanting to receive everything plus wanting to bestow everything, to be in reception and bestowal, double the pleasure. It's like going for the jackpot. Okay? And this fourth stage is the real creature that we're talking about. That is the real desire to receive everything that the Creator has and to receive His status quo as well. It's like to receive the King's treasure and His throne. And this is the desire to receive that we're always talking about. The one in the fourth phase. These 4 phases, this is how the Creator gradually developed this desire to receive. All right, 4 phases. Now, after this, there are more developments, which we're going to look at right now. Once the creature understands that he wants to receive everything, he feels what? He feels shame. Right? At the bottom of that discernment, let's make it in red so you can see it, it feels shame. It says, oh my God, I am such a bad personality. Did you guys ever feel that before? Okay, you did something and then it dawned on you that you are such a terrible person. All right, have you ever done that? Looked in the mirror afterwards and thought, oh my God, did I really do that? Okay, yes, I am sure you did.
Maybe a time or two.
Yeah. All right, so this is actually kind of feeling that he's going through, oh my God, I just, robbed my dad and stole his throne and I threw him in the dungeon. And then it dawned on me what I did, and I did that to my dad. Okay, so that's the kind of feeling all of a sudden he's going through. I'm like, how could I do that? So he feels really bad, and he feels this thing called shame, which you need to keep in mind, because this is the root of where Adam in the story feels shame. Right now, there's no Adam and Eve here. All right. But that concept of shame, also shame in this world, when we feel bad for doing, something, is the root is coming from here. Shame. Now, once the created creature, this desire to receive, feels shame, he does an action called restriction. He says, you know what, I feel so bad, I am not taking anything ever again from the Creator. I just feel really bad about that. So it's called a restriction. And it's called the first restriction. The first restriction. The creature does the first restriction. It says, but the Creator wants to bestow, right? Don't forget, the Creator still wants to bestow. Say, listen, don't worry about it. Things like this happening, you say, no thanks, man. This is really bad. Okay, so he is in a state, this desire to receive just says, no, I just don't want to go there anymore. Just felt really bad. Even though you forgave me and you said it was okay, he's saying, no, thank you. Okay, just say no. Okay, that's the new attitude that this desire to receive has, because he felt really bad. However, from that comes another understanding. Once he's restricted himself completely, he's thinking, wait a minute, how am I ever going to have a relationship with my dad or the Creator if I don't take anything from him? It's like he's giving me a call and I'm not picking up the phone. How can I ever have a relationship with the Creator if I don't receive anything from him? It's like I've thrown him to the other side of the planet, and I said, I don't want to see you, I don't want to talk to you, I just feel bad if I receive from you. That brings us to a solution. Now the desire to receive has to think, how can I build a relationship with the Creator so I don't feel miserable? So this relationship can be on equal terms and we can all be happy about it. Kind of like trying to fix your broken relationship in a nice way. So he's thinking about it. Why? Because this relationship is important. So he wants to build it. So what he does is this. He says, well, let me create states for me where I can look at what the Creator wants to give me. I can evaluate what he wants to give me. And I can see if I can, take those things without being selfish about it, all right? And this state of building situations, like building roadblocks to make your relationship better, right? He's building states where he's measuring how I should approach the Creator. It's like having a relationship with your wife or your husband. Okay, so we had an argument last night. So on the way home, I'm thinking, what do I need to say? What do I need to do so we can make this, work out and we can fix this? Okay, but both, okay, so we're like thinking about that. And those states, those scenarios that this desire to receive is putting together are called worlds. Okay? And they're not far-fetched, right? Because a person is where he thinks. So if I'm in a state of thinking how I'm going to, try and make things better with my wife, we just had an argument and it was really bad. How do I need to now approach this? Should I get some flowers? Should I do something? Should I cook? Should I take her out to dinner? So all these things that are going through my mind in order to put a scenario together, in order to make sure my approach to the situation is good for her and for us so that we can reconnect again, is called the state of worlds. In order for the created being, this desire to receive, to do that, he has to know what the Creator has to offer. The beautiful thing is, he does, because that's what the Creator did right here. He showed us everything that he can give us. So we already know what the Creator can give us. Plus, we already know from here what it feels like to really bestow. Now the created being has to just do one thing. Let me sort out myself in such a way, in such a way that I will categorize all my desires and I will make levels out of them. Okay, let's say Absolute, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asya. I will make, I'll divide my desires, and I'll see how I can handle the light within those desires. Does that make sense? Yeah? If it doesn't make sense, you should ask. It's not a big deal. I can answer a question 1,000,000 times. On 1,000,001, it's a problem, but you can ask the same question 1,000,000 times. I don't mind.
We've got some questions here in regards to the 4 phases of direct light and kind of how it goes in here. Abdul is asking, he wants to take that phase over again. He says, please, can we take the 4th phase over? Carmen is asking, the creation is created outside the Creator because it is created. The Creator is not, and because of the desire to receive, the Creator only bestow. So is the creation independent of the Creator?
Okay, let's start
from the Creator.
Let's start from the beginning. The Creator and us are all of us, actually in one reality. However, we don't feel the Creator. So because we don't feel the Creator, I can't say I'm in the same reality as the Creator, because it's just not true, right? We have to come to the sensation that we are, but right now we're not. So I have to say me and the Creator are separated. We don't feel each other. I mean, he feels us, but we don't feel him, so we don't know he feels us either unless we feel each other. So the Creator doesn't exist, so we can say honestly that the Creator doesn't exist for us. We don't see him. If we don't see him, he doesn't exist. So that's the situation we're in. We're inside creation and we don't feel the Creator. We will come to a state where we are in creation together with the Creator and will feel the Creator. Now, Abdul, the 4 phases of direct light. After the lesson, you must watch it again from YouTube. Okay, simply because I would love to, but I've just got no time to go over it.
I'm going to try to find it before we clear and post it.
Okay.
Claire is asking, in stages 3, Steve is asking, in stages 3 and 4, is the pleasure of reception talking about corporeal pleasures or receiving the pleasure of being like the Creator?
Being like the Creator, yeah. And also the things we can receive from the Creator. It's not corporeal. Corporeal pleasures are like, it's like a drop in the ocean. It's like a salt particle in a drop in the ocean. It's that small compared to the Creator, compared to the pleasures with the Creator.
Claire is asking, she says, I don't understand. How do we find the YouTube link to these lessons, to these sessions on Zoom? I'm going to post something here in this.
We have a YouTube
chat
page,
here.
guys. Okay, we have a YouTube page. Anthony will post that link. All right. We can email that to you as well. Right here then. So we have about, what, 2-3 minutes left. Now, what happens is this. The created being divides all the desires it has inside of it into different parts. Some of these desires I can use in order to bestow because they're easy desires. You know, some of those desires, they're easy in us. We can go and do favors for people because it's not a big deal, you know. But there are some things that are a big deal and you don't want to do a favor to someone that big, right? Okay, somebody asks for I don't know, for $1 from you, for, you know, it's not a big deal. You give them $1. Someone says, hey, listen, mate, can you give me $1 million? And then you think, oh, that's a big deal, buddy. Okay, so there are things I can use without any problems to help people out. And there are some desires and I think, oh my God, I can't use that. It's just like not going to work out. So same thing here. The desire to receive looks at itself and says, there are desires I can use in order to bestow to the Creator. And there are some desires, they feel so good. I am not even going to think about the Creator because it's just so good. So what do? I decide to put them aside. Okay? And this is what the building of the worlds is all about. I'm just segregating my desires. I'm saying, listen, I'm not going to use these desires because I know this is bad for our relationship. So I'm just not going there. That's it. Simply, that's the situation. Now, unfortunately, what happened is this. On top of this creation where we segregated all the desires, the Creator created some guy called Adam, which I'm sure you guys all heard about. Adam was created inside the desire to receive within these worlds. These are the worlds, right? These are all the 5 worlds. And Adam was created in here. Adam. He was created in the Garden of Eden. If all the desires were nice and jolly, and he knew what he could do, and he knew what he couldn't do and shouldn't do, and everything was great. And that was fine. And then, Eve came along. That was and then Eve came along too, and Eve said to Adam, listen, it's getting a little boring. Why don't we do something exciting? And Adam said, well, what would you like to do? Well, how about that tree? That looks nice. Why don't we go and eat from that? And so they did. Okay, and that's the apple tree. All right, the apple is just a symbol for the tree of wisdom. All right, so it's like knowledge I can't handle at the moment. It's like giving your 5-year-old a loaded gun and thinking, hey, go on, play around with that. See how that feels. Okay, it's just like not really cool, is it? So that's the situation here. Now, they didn't have a bad intention. Okay, they didn't have a bad intention. Eve is not bad. Okay, because sometimes they make her out to look bad. It's not. Eve was just trying to actually bestow to the Creator. And Eve is actually part of Adam, which most people on the outside world will not tell you. Okay, Adam and Eve are actually one being, right? They're one complete being. Let's do it like this, right? So Adam is actually our intention. And our intention was okay when it was initially created. And Eve is this additional state inside our intention where we want something extra, right? And Eve actually wanted to do a nice thing to the Creator because the Creator said, listen, I did all this for you guys. So Eve said, oh my God, that's great. Well, we can then eat because he made it all for us and he'll be happy. However, though, you need wisdom before you can play around with a gun that's loaded. All right, so that was the issue. It's like your kids see you cooking and you know, they see you feeding them and they think it's great. So the kids would also love to cook for you and surprise you, and they also want to do something good for you, and you come home and the house is burnt down. All right. Now it's a good intention, okay, but the action is very, very dramatic because you just have a burnt down house at the moment. Why? Because they need to know how to use a desire correctly. And that's what was missing. However, that was all part of the plan, because by making a mistake, the whole of creation, this is the breaking of the soul, came to a place called our world, which is our corporeal world here. So now we live here. We have no connection with the spiritual world at all, nor do we have any connection with the Creator. However, this breaking of the soul, where Adam got kicked out of heaven, as the story goes, right, was necessary and was needed so that this guy called Adam can once again develop himself on his own, grow up, like go to school. Okay, so this is our world, is like school. And from here he could develop himself once again. And he can now recreate the spiritual worlds by himself. And by doing that, he actually becomes like the Creator. He builds the whole spiritual reality once again on his own from scratch, which gives him the ability to understand the Creator completely, to be like him, to be his equal. That is what we need to do while we live here. Okay, while we are still living in this world. So don't go anywhere. Okay, that's the whole purpose of creation, is to get that spiritual sensation, to develop a soul. Okay, what we need to do is develop our soul from scratch here, and that starts with the dot in the heart, which a person gets. From this dot in the heart, we build a soul while we live in this world, with a special intention to bestow to the Creator. As the Creator bestows, we also bestow. We must do it while we live here on this planet, in this body. And this is all I wanted to say with 7 minutes of overlap. All right? We're getting there. Okay? We're getting there. Right? That's the whole trick. Now, how we can do that? We can do that in a society where, which we just read, the purpose of society. If a group of people want to attain this attribute of bestowal by working amongst each other and wanting to build this spiritual state, they can do this, because for a group of people with that kind of a work, what happens is the Creator helps. Oops. So anyone who studies in order to bestow to the Creator gets light. That light is the help of the Creator. Okay? Help of the Creator. And that's how you get wisdom. That's how you attain spirituality. Because the Creator changes our nature. We can't change it ourselves, but the Creator can. So if a person wants to change his nature in order to come to bestowal, the Creator will change him and make him a desire to receive with an intention to bestow. And because he worked for it, he worked for that change to happen, it means he labored for it and he earned it. So we earn our spirituality. And if you don't earn your spirituality, well, you know, it's like in this world, right? If you don't earn your bread, you starve. So it is. And that's about it. Well, okay, great. 10 minutes overdue. Any questions? Questions? Just 30 seconds more.
Simona, how can I develop the point in the heart? I think the old methods of thinking need to be changed. How can I make this change?
In the group, you can only make it because the environment influences you, right? Because we're studying now and you're learning things, and all of a sudden these new things are coming to you, so you're asking. So the more we study, the more we will be influenced to do that inner change. So that's why working inside a group with same-minded people is very important.
Question from Romania. Fear of the Creator or fear of not being able to perceive the Creator?
Fear of the Creator means I am afraid of not being able to bestow to the Creator.
How do I know what changes I need to make to correct myself?
That you will find out along the way. It's like a kid, kids make mistake. How are they gonna know they made a mistake? Because you got to make the mistake, right? You got to eat the apple, make the mistake, fall down, and think, oh my God, I better not do that again.
Very last question. Can one become clairvoyant through the study of Kabbalah?
Clairvoyant, one can see, feel, and understand the Creator. How much more clairvoyant can you get? There is no beyond that.
How can we develop ourselves from the physical world in order to be in the spiritual world?
Oh, that's because you need one of these dots in the heart. Without these, I have nothing to say to anyone. Only a dot in the heart can save a man or a woman.
That's it.
Okay, great. We will love you and leave you as usual until next week. And aloha. All right, see you guys next week. Take care. All the best.
Bye-bye. Have
Bye
a great
now.
night.